and welcome to my channel. My name is Claudia and I'm from Yoga for Everybody. So in today's class I will be introducing you to elements of Ashtanga Yoga sequence. So Ashtanga is a power vinyasa yoga style where you link your breath to movement, to your asanas. There are 6 series in Ashtanga Yoga, and today we will be focusing on the postures in the primary yoga series, so the first one. So usually the students will move from one series to the other once they've mastered all the poses in the previous series. I won't be covering all the poses in the Ashtanga Yoga primary series today. This is just an introductory video suitable to beginner level students, and this is just to give you a bit of a flavour of what to expect if you go into an Ashtanga Yoga class. You don't need any props for today's practice, but it might be handy to have a couple of blocks nearby, or if you haven't got any blocks, maybe a couple of books. So in my case, my child's building bricks, just to help you, and also a strap or a scarf or something to help you with some forward folds. So I've got a skipping rope just in case. You may or may not need to use it, but it's handy to have just in case. Okay, let's begin. Since Ashtanga Yoga is the vinyasa style of yoga where we link breath to movement, the first thing I want to show you is the breath. So in Ashtanga Yoga we use a technique called Ujjayi breathing, and it's a technique, if done correctly, can be both relaxing and energizing to the body and the mind. So this is a technique where the sound of Ujjayi is created by gently constricting the opening of the throat to create sort of the resistance in the passage of air. So we will practice that in a minute. The key to that technique is relaxation, so you need to be nice and relaxed. So if you want to come to your mats and just sit down comfortably, maybe in an easy cross-legged posture, close your eyes for a moment and just come to the natural rhythm of your breath. And then see if you can inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. One more time, inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. So in Ujjayi breathing, we're trying to lengthen the time it takes to breathe in and lengthen the time it takes to breathe out, and we're trying to make the breath in and out equal, and we're trying to make the breath as smooth as possible. So pretend like you're sipping the breath through the straw. So inhale through the nose, nice and slow, and then exhale through the mouth. So next time you're going to take an inhale through the nose, but then add a bit more force when you're exhaling through the mouth. So use the technique that you would if you were trying to steam up a bathroom mirror, for example. So the sound. So let's try it. Inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Okay. So next time we're going to inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose as well, but you're going to exhale from the back of the throat. So the same action that you were just doing with your mouth, only close your lips. So inhale and then exhale from the back of the throat. That's it. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And it's the sound in Ujjayi breathing that helps us focus the mind when we're starting to practice asanas or postures. So as we move into our practice, see if you can implement this Ujjayi breathing maybe in some of the postures and see how you get on. Okay, so from here let's move into the warm-up sequence of Ashtanga Yoga. So traditionally you do 5 Sun Salutations A or Suri Namaskar A and 5 Sun Salutations B as a warm-up. For the purpose of today's practice, we're just going to condense it a little bit, so we'll do 3 Sun Salutations A and 2 Sun Salutations B. With the first Sun Salutation, we'll take it nice and slow. I'll explain all the poses, and then once you know what you're doing, we'll try and pick up the pace a little bit and try and do the breath to movement, the vinyasa. And as we go along, see if you can practice your Ujjayi breathing, so maybe not on all the postures, but especially the ones where we're holding it for a few breaths, like down dogs. See if you can start introducing the Ujjayi breath to the practice. Okay. We're going to begin in a standing Samastitihi pose at the front of your mat. So from Sanskrit, it translates as standing still. I'll give you a couple of options here. You can have your big toes touching and heels about an inch or so apart, and this is how you normally start the practice. If for any reason this feels uncomfortable, you can also have your feet hip width apart. From here, engage your belly, so tuck your belly in. And then see if you can start lengthening your tailbone down towards the floor. So instead of arching your spine, see if you can start lengthening it down. So your core is engaged, your tailbone is lengthening towards the floor. Arms by your sides, palms facing forwards, shoulders are nice and relaxed, you're gazing forwards directly in front of you. Maybe you can close your eyes, and we're just going to begin by taking a 3 deep breaths. So if you can do Ujjayi breathing, come with me. So let's inhale through the nose and then exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. Last time, inhale and exhale. And then gently open your eyes if your eyes were closed, and we'll begin the practice. So inhale, lift your arms up and stretch through the fingertips, maybe join the palms together. On an exhale, fold forwards over your legs. So you can keep a bend in the knees, try and keep your back nice and long. So I'm bending my knees to start with, and focusing on lengthening the spine down. You can have your fingertips on the mat, or you can have your hands on your shins or your thighs, or somewhere on the legs where you can reach. On an inhale, place your hands on your shins and then lift your chest off your thighs and look forwards. Maybe you can straighten your legs here, but you can keep them bent if you need to. And then exhale, fold forwards and place your hands flat on the mat. Take a step back with your right leg, followed by your left leg into a plank position. So 2 options here, depending on your strength. You can hold a plank with your knees lifted, or if this is too challenging, just drop your knees down onto the floor. And just make sure that your shoulders are directly over your wrists. Take an inhale here. On an exhale, we're going to drop the knees down, and then keeping the elbows in, you're going to lower your chest and your chin down towards the floor. So try and keep the elbows in, chest down, chin down. And then inhale, lift your chest forwards, release the toes and straighten your legs into a cobra. And just notice here that your shoulders are not lifting, your shoulders are nice and relaxed. If this is too challenging, you can also do a little baby cobra, so you're not lifting as high, so you're about here. Take another breath here, and then tuck your toes under, and you're going to start reversing this pose. So lift the hips up towards the sky into a downward facing dog. So in your downward facing dog, you're hip width apart with your feet and your shoulder width apart with your hands. You can keep a bend in the knees if you need to, if you've got tight hamstrings, or if you're like me and practicing in the morning, all my muscles are still half asleep. So focus on lengthening your back and lifting your tailbone up towards the sky, and maybe you can pedal your feet
one at a time, so lowering one heel down onto the floor and then the other. And if at any point any pose feels challenging, your shoulders are hurting or you need to have a rest, drop down onto your knees and sit back in child's pose. So you just sit back on your heels and relax for as long as you need to. On your next inhale, look between your hands and you're going to step your feet to the front of the mat. So if you need to, you can take a few little steps. We're just learning. Or if you can, maybe take 2 big steps to the front of the mat. Inhale, place your hands on your shins, make a flat back, look forwards. And then exhale, fold forwards over your legs, back nice and long. On an inhale, you're going to come all the way up to standing. So again, try and keep your back nice and straight. Lift your arms up, maybe join the palms together. And then exhale, Samastita, hand by your sides, arms by your sides, palms facing forwards. So this was a very slow variation of our first Suri Namaskar A. So now that you know what you're doing, let's see if we can pick up the pace a little bit. We're going to continue with the cobras and I'll show you the upward facing dog on Sun Salutation B. Okay, let's inhale, lift your arms up, stretch through the fingertips, maybe join the palms together. Exhale, fold forwards, back nice and long, knees bend if you need to. Inhale, hands on your shins, make a flat back, look forwards. Exhale, fold forwards, hands flat on the mat, take a step back into a plank. And then drop your knees down, chest and chin down to the mat, elbows in, and then inhale, lift your chest, release the toes, cobra. Exhale, tuck your toes under and start lifting your hips and your tailbone up towards the sky, downward facing dog. And another thing to notice in downward facing dog is that your shoulders are as relaxed as possible. I know if you're just starting out, you might be tensing a little bit, but see if you can externally rotate your shoulders away from your ears so they're not pressing against the ears. And you can continue pedaling your feet down, or if you want to stand still and see if you can start lowering the heels down onto the mat, you can do. Gaze between your legs to the back of the room, neck is nice and relaxed. Let's take one more deep breath. And then inhale, look between your hands, step your feet to your hands. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, back nice and long, lift your arms up, maybe join the palms together. And exhale, Samastita, hands down, arms by your sides, palms facing forwards. Let's do Suri Namaskar A one last time. So inhale, lift your arms up, stretch through the fingertips. Exhale, fold forwards. So back nice and long. See if you can maybe start straightening the legs as well, but it really doesn't matter if you need to keep the knees bent. We're working on releasing the hamstrings and it will come with time. Inhale, you can have your fingertips on the floor or hands on your shins. Make a flat back, look forwards, maybe straighten the legs. Exhale, fold forwards, hands flat on the mat. Take a step back into a plank. Lower your knees down, keeping the elbows in, chest chin down onto the mat. And then inhale, lift into a cobra. And exhale, tuck your toes under, lift your tailbone up, downward facing dog. So down dog is a good place to practice your Ujjayi breathing. So see if you can take an inhale through the nose. And then exhale from the back of the throat. On your next inhale, look between your hands. Step your feet to the front of the mat. Exhale, fold forwards over the legs. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Lift your arms up. Maybe join the palms together. And exhale, hands down, arms by your sides, palms facing forwards, Samastitihi. Okay, so from here we're going to move into Suri Namaskar B, or Sun Salutation B. And Suri Namaskar B starts in a chair pose. So I'm going to continue having my feet just slightly apart because I find it a little bit more comfortable to sit back in a chair pose. But you can have your feet together if that's better for you. Place your hands on your hips to start with, and then sit back like you would if you were sitting down in a chair. Just gaze down and make sure that your weight is in your heels, so your knees are not going over your toes. And then when you can't go any lower and you've got the balance, lift your arms up, Utkatasana, chair pose. Let's just have another deep breath here. And then exhale, fold forwards over your legs. Keep your knees bent. Bring your fingertips to the floor. And then on an inhale, we're going to look forward, straighten the legs if you can. Hands on the shins or fingertips to the mat. Make a flat back. Exhale, fold forwards, hands flat to the mat. And step back into a plank. Try not to kick your cat. So this time we're going to lower down one more time, and you can drop your knees again and lower down into a cobra. Or if you want to try and do it with your knees lifted off the floor, see if you can bring the weight forwards a little bit, keeping the elbows in. See if you can lower all the way down in one straight line, and then lower your chest down onto the floor. Release the toes and inhale, lift into a cobra. Or if you want to try it, see if you can lift your legs off the floor, so your thighs are lifting off the floor. You're just balancing on your toes in upward facing dog. And then exhale, tuck your toes under, lift your hips up into downward facing dog. Let's take one breath in down dog. And then on an exhale, bring your right knee into your chest, round the spine, and then see if you can step your right leg in between your hands. If this is not accessible and your legs ended up somewhere around here, that's absolutely fine. Just use your hand to guide it to the front of the mat. From here, drop your left heel down onto the floor and point your left toes out, so they're about 45 degrees. And from here, we're going to lift both hands up into Warrior One. So you can have your hands apart, palms facing towards one another, or if it's accessible for the shoulders, maybe you can join your palms together. If it's comfortable for the neck, see if you can gaze up towards your fingertips, your right knees over your right ankle, and then see if you can also maybe just gently square your hips towards the front of the mat. So if they don't square all the way, it doesn't matter, everyone's hips are different, but just try. Inhale, one more breath. I know we're holding it for longer than you would. And then exhale, lower your hands back down onto the mat. Take a step back into a plank. So knees up or down, entirely up to you. Let's lower all the way down onto the floor. So bring some weight forwards, keep the elbows in, try and lower down in one straight line. And then inhale, lift your chin and your chest forwards, release the toes, cobra, or lift your legs off the floor as well, upward facing dog. And then exhale, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Take an inhale in down dog. And on an exhale, bring your left knee into your chest. round the spine, and then step your left foot in between your hands. And again, doesn't matter if it ended up somewhere in the middle of your mat, just guide it with your left hand. Drop the right knee down onto the mat this time, point your right toes out about 45 degrees. Left knee is over your left ankle, and then inhale, lift your arms up into Warrior One. And naturally your hips will follow the direction of your right toes. So just ever so slightly, see if you can start moving them towards the front edge of the mat so they're aligned with the short edge of the mat. But like I said, everyone's hips are different, so don't worry if you can't square all the way. It really doesn't matter that much. You'll just feel the stretch in a slightly different area of your leg. So your arms are up, palms are together or apart, whatever feels best for your shoulders. Gazing up or gazing directly in front of you. Inhale. And then exhale, lower your hands back down onto the floor. Step back into a plank. One more time, lower down all the way to the mat. And if you're lowering off your knees, see if you can still maintain that nice straight line as you're lowering down. And then lift your chin and your chest up, and maybe lift your legs off the floor into upward dog. And exhale, back into downward facing dog. Let's take one deep breath in this down dog. And then on your next inhale, look between your hands. Step your feet to the front of the mat. Exhale, fold forwards and bend your knees. We're going to come back into the chair pose on an inhale. So lift your arms up. And then straighten your legs. Lift your arms up towards the sky. And exhale, arms by your sides, palms facing forwards, Samastitihi. So this was our Sun Salutation B. Now that you know roughly what's coming, let's see if we can pick up the pace a little bit on our last Sun Salutation. So inhale, sit back in a chair pose and lift your arms up. Exhale, fold forwards over your legs, keep your knees bent. Inhale, make a flat back and look forwards, maybe straighten the legs. Exhale, fold forwards, hands flat to the floor. Step back into a plank. Knees up or down, entirely up to you. Let's lower all the way down into the floor. And inhale, lift up into a cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. On an exhale, bring your right knee into your chest, round the back, and step your right foot in between your hands. Drop your left knee down onto the floor, coming up into Warrior One for a breath. And then on an exhale, lower your hands back down onto the mat. Step back into a plank. Lower down onto the floor. Inhale, lift up into cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. Exhale, bring your left knee into your chest, round the spine and step it through in between your hands. Drop your right heel down onto the floor. And on an inhale, come up, Warrior One. Exhale, bring your hands back down onto the floor. Step back into plank. One more time, lower all the way down. Inhale, lift up, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. One deep breath in down dog. Maybe practice the Ujjayi breathing. On your next inhale, look between your hands, step your feet to the front of the mat. Exhale, fold forwards. Bend your knees, and on an inhale, come back into chair pose. And then lift all the way up to standing. And exhale, Samastutahi. Fantastic. So from here, we're going to move into the standing postures of Ashtanga sequence. So place your hands on your hips. Separate your feet about hip width apart. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, tilting from the hips, we're going to fold forwards over the legs. So if you need to, if your hamstrings are tight, bend your knees to start with and lower your chest over your thighs, keeping the back nice and long. And then place your hands either at the back of your legs, so the back of your calves. Maybe you can grab hold of your ankles, or maybe you can grab hold of your big toes. And if you've got your big toes, see if you can start opening your elbows out to the side. You'll feel a really good stretch in the shoulder blades here actually. Try and bring the weight forwards into your toes. We're going to take a few deep breaths here. So if your back is nice and long over your thighs, see if you can then start straightening your legs. So you don't have to straighten them all the way, just experiment here. Work at your own level. You know how tight your hamstrings are. There's no need to overstretch, so just gently see if you can take an inhale, and on an exhale maybe straighten your legs just a tiny little bit. Brilliant. Then place your hands back onto your hips, and on an inhale come all the way up to standing. And bring your feet together. From here we're going to take a nice big step back with your right leg to the back of your mat. We're going to go into a Trikonasana pose or triangle pose. So for this you might need your block if you've got one, but you don't have to have any props. I will show you how to do it without a prop, but it might be handy to have a block. So if you've got one, just place it on the outside of your right foot. So point your right toes towards the back of your mat. Your left toes are pointing towards the long edge of the mat, maybe just ever so slightly in. Your right heel is in line with the arch of your left foot. So if you were to draw a line, it's roughly aligned there. Take an inhale and lift your arms out to the sides. Gaze towards your right fingertips. And then exhale, stretch your right hand forwards as far as you can and send your left hip back. So it's this action. So you're sending the left hip back, right hand forwards. And then drop your right hand down your right leg wherever you can reach and straighten your left arm up towards the sky. So your right hand can be on your thigh, on your shin. Maybe you can go all the way down towards your foot. Maybe you can place your hand onto your block. So what we're looking for here is for the body not to be collapsing forward. So it's a nice straight line. Your left shoulder is up. Your fingertips are up, and it's a nice straight line from your right shoulder to your left up towards the sky. What you're also trying to do in Trikonasana is lengthen both sides of your body. So instead of bending like that, see if you can lengthen down with both sides of your body. You can gaze down for balance or gaze up towards your left fingertips. Let's take one more inhale. And then on an exhale, see if you can use your core strength and come all the way up to standing. Place your hands on your hips and we're going to switch sides. So your right toes are going to go in, left toes out And it's the same posture on the other leg, so you can have your block on the outside of your left foot if you want to. Inhale, lift your arms to the sides, gaze towards your left fingertips. Exhale, send your right hip back, left hand forwards this time, and then drop your left hand down your left leg, wherever you can reach. Right arm up towards the sky, and again we're looking for this nice straight line. Shoulders are in a nice long straight line. We're going to take a couple of breaths here, so you can maybe inhale, lengthen, and exhale. See if you can go a little bit deeper. Be mindful of overflexing your knees in this pose. It's easily done, so just make sure you've got a tiny little micro bend in your knee. Your knees are soft to protect them. Again, you can gaze down or gaze up towards your right fingertips. One more breath. And then see if you can, on an exhale, come all the way up into a Trikonasana, hands on your hips. So Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle, so quite a challenging pose for me. I'd like to know how you find it. So you're going to bring your right toes to face the back of the room again. You're going to bring your left foot in a little bit. Your left toes are pointing 45 degrees, just like they did in Warrior One. I need a block for this posture personally, so I'm going to have a block on the outside of my right foot. So place your right hand onto your hip, square your hips towards the back of the room if you can, or as much as possible. Inhale, lift your left arm up, and on an exhale you're going to stretch your left hand forwards and then drop it on the outside of your right leg. So it could be your right thigh, it could be your shin. I'm going to put mine on the block. If you've got the flexibility and you can drop your hand down onto the floor on the outside of your right foot, by all means do. So like I said, personally I find this pose very challenging, so I'm going to have a block here. So your right leg is straight, your right hand's on your hip to start with. And I would say if you're just starting out with this practice, if you're new to yoga, this might be a very challenging pose for you already. So by all means, just stay here for another couple of breaths. If you wanted to go into the full pose, lift your right arm up towards the sky. So it's quite a deep twist to the right here. And maybe gaze towards your right fingertips. So I'm going to place my hand on the hip and then place my left hand on the hip and come all the way up to standing. And we'll switch sides. So bring your right toes in, left toes out. I'm just going to grab my block. So if you've got a block, place it on the outside of your left toes. So your right toes are pointing about 45 degrees. So it's pretty much like a Warrior One, only with your legs straight. Your left hand's on your left hip. Inhale, lift your right arm up. And then exhale, stretch your right hand forwards and then drop it maybe on the outside of your left thigh. Maybe you can grab hold of your left shin or the outer edge of your left leg somewhere. Maybe place your right hand on the block. And again, if you've got the flexibility, maybe drop it down all the way to the floor. So really deep twist here. And again, you can maybe have your left hand on the hip, or if you want to go into the full pose, maybe lift your left arm up towards the sky. And especially in this pose, if you find that you're not breathing at any point, you've definitely gone too far. So please back out and go into the previous variation. So just hold it here or maybe just here and work on lengthening the spine and doing a gentle twist to start with. And then exhale, bring your hands back onto your hips and come all the way up to standing. And we're just going to step to the front of the mat and give the legs a bit of a shake before we move into the next pose. So take a nice big step back towards the back of your mat one more time, maybe slightly wider stance than for Trikonasana. Right toes are pointing out, left toes are in. This time we're going to bend the right knee. You can have your block again on the outside of your right foot. So to start with, just have your hands on your hips. Let's just work on our legs. So your right knee again is over your right ankle. Make sure the knee is not dropping in, so it's in line with your second and third toe roughly. Your left toes are pointing towards the long edge of the mat, and just see if you can sit a little bit deeper into this pose. So opening the inner thighs here, feel the stretch. Try and keep your body nice and straight, so try not to lean too far forwards or too far back. And then when you're ready, let's lift the arms out again, gaze towards the right fingertips. Take an inhale here. On an exhale, bring your right elbow to your right knee, left arm up towards the sky. If you want to go a little bit further, maybe start bringing your left arm over your left ear. Maybe you can drop your right hand down on the outside of your right foot, or maybe onto the block. But what we don't want in this extended side angle is for your body to collapse forwards again. So if you're losing this nice straight line, just come up back onto your knee. Wherever you are, let's take another deep breath. And then come all the way up into Warrior Two. Place your hands on your hips and we're going to switch sides. So bring your right toes in, left toes out. Get your block if you've got one. And then bend your left knee. And just work on the legs to start with. So your left knee is over your left ankle, in line with your second and third toes, so it's not falling in or out. Right toes are pointing towards the long edge of the mat. Inhale, lift your arms out to the sides. And exhale, left elbow to your left knee, right arm up towards the sky. And again, stay here if you're just starting out and this feels like a good enough stretch for you already. If you want to take it a little bit deeper, bring your right arm over your right ear. Maybe you can drop your left hand down on the outside of your left leg, or maybe onto the block. And maybe gaze towards the right fingertips if you've got the balance, or continue gazing down. One more inhale, and then exhale, come all the way up. Bring your hands back onto your hips. We're going to spin the left toes in, right toes out. Again, this time you're going to spin your left heel up and bend your right knee. So we're in this lunge, crescent lunge position. When you've got the balance, inhale, lift your arms up. And then exhale, bring your hands in prayer in front of your chest. Take an inhale. On an exhale, you're going to lean forwards and then bring your left elbow and hook it over your right knee. So we're taking a twist to the right. If you need to, you can drop your left knee down onto the floor to start with. Get into this pose and then lift the left knee off the mat. And if you wanted to go into the full variation of this pose, you can maybe drop your left fingertips down towards the floor and lift your right arm up towards the sky. But again, if this is too challenging and you're not breathing, just stay in the previous variation. One more inhale and exhale. On an inhale, come back into the crescent lunge, lift your arms up. And exhale, place your hands onto your hips and we'll switch sides. So spin your left toes towards the long edge of the mat. And then spin your right heel up towards the sky. So we're in the crescent lunge. So left knee is bend and it's over your left ankle. And when you're ready, inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, bring your hands together in prayer in front of your chest. Inhale, lean forwards, and on an exhale, bring your right elbow over your left knee, prayer twist to the left. And again, if you need to drop your right knee down onto the floor, you can do that. And then maybe experiment with your balance and lift it off the mat. If you want to go into the full variation of this pose, maybe drop your right fingertips down onto the floor, left arm up towards the ceiling. Wherever you are, let's take one more inhale and exhale. On an inhale, come all the way up, lift your arms up, crescent pose. And then bring your hands onto your hips and see if you can step to the front of your mat and give your legs a bit of a shake. Okay, one last time, take a big step back to the back of your mat, but this time keep your toes on your both feet pointing towards the long edge of the mat. We're going to do a wide-legged forward fold. So legs are nice and wide. Place your hands on your hips to start with. Inhale, lift your chest forwards. And exhale, tilting from the hips back nice and long. Start folding forwards. And again, if you need to, you can have your block nearby and just lower your hands, or if you've got two blocks or two books, you can lower your hands onto the blocks, whichever way, however far you can get to. Keeping your back nice and long, just hold here and wait for the hamstrings to release, wait for the back to lengthen. Don't rush it, don't push yourself into the pose. If you've got the flexibility, maybe you can place your fingertips down onto the floor, maybe hands flat down onto the floor. Wherever you are, on an inhale, see if you can lengthen your spine forwards, gaze forwards, and exhale, fold forwards. So if your hands are on the floor, see if you can move them back a little bit and start drawing your elbows so your elbows are parallel to one another. And then maybe see if you can start bringing your weight into your toes a little bit so you're not leaning back into your heels too much. Let's take one more deep breath. And then place your hands back onto your hips. Come all the way up to standing. And then take a step to the front of the mat. And again, give your legs a bit of a shake. Brilliant. We're going to do a couple of balancing postures before we move into the seated sequence of the practice. So standing at the front of your mat, place your hands on your hips and then just spread the toes on your left foot. Turn your right toes out about 90 degrees and from here place your right foot either into your ankle, keeping your toes on the floor. Maybe you can place your right foot into your calf. Try and avoid the area where your knee is, and maybe you can bring your foot all the way into your left thigh. So your right knee is opening out 90 degrees. You can have your hands in prayer in front of your chest. And just take a nice deep inhale here. If you wanted to, you can stretch your arms up towards the sky. Maybe gaze up, maybe join your palms together. Take one more inhale here. And then if your hands were up, bring them back down to your chest. And then release.
And we'll do the same postures on the opposite leg. So place your hands on your hips, spread your toes nice and wide on your right foot, and then turn your left toes out and bring your left foot either into your ankle, maybe up into your shin. Try and avoid the knee, maybe bring it all the way up into your right thigh. So left knee is opening out to the side. Maybe you can bring your hands in front of your chest in prayer and just stay here for a couple of breaths. If you want to, you can stretch your arms up, maybe join your palms together. And if you wanted an extra challenge, you can close your eyes and see if you can balance with your eyes closed. Wherever you are, let's take one more breath. And then exhale, release. Give your legs a bit of a shake. So one last balancing pose. Spread the toes on your left foot one more time. Place your hands on your hips and just see if you can lift your right knee up. So your right thigh is parallel to the floor. So maybe this is as far as you want to go, which is fine. Just practice balancing here. If you can, maybe see if you can start bringing your right knee a bit closer to your body. Maybe you can grab hold of your big toe and just balance here, holding your big toe. Or maybe you can straighten your right leg, holding on to the big toe. Wherever you are, let's take another breath. And then exhale, release everything down onto the floor. Give your legs a bit of a shake. And we'll switch sides. So spread the toes on your right foot, hands on your hips, and then just see if you can lift your left knee up. So your left thigh is parallel to the floor. Maybe hold here. If you need to hold on to something, by all means do. Maybe you can bring your left knee into your chest a little bit more. Maybe you can grab hold of your left toe with your fingers. Maybe you can straighten the left leg this time. So wherever you are, let's take another breath. And then exhale, release. Brilliant. Come to the front of your mat. On an inhale, lift your arms up, stretch through the fingertips, maybe join the palms together. Exhale, fold forwards over your legs. Inhale, hands on your shins, make a flat back and look forwards. Exhale, fold forwards, hands flat on the floor. Take a step back into a plank. Inhale here, on an exhale, lower all the way down onto the floor. And inhale, lift up into a cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. One deep breath in down dog. And then drop your knees down onto the floor, cross your legs and sit back. We're done with the standing sequence of the practice. So we're now going to move into the seated practice of Ashtanga Yoga. So stretch your legs out in front of you. Place your hands by your hips. Roll your shoulders back. Tuck your chin. And we're just going to take another deep breath here. And exhale. On your next inhale, lift your arms up. And on an exhale, fold forwards over your legs and grab hold of your thighs, your shins, maybe the outer edges of your feet, maybe your big toes, so wherever you can reach. And what I'd like you to focus on is lengthening your spine forward. So on an inhale, see if you can lengthen. And exhale, fold forward. So try not to round your back too much. You can keep a bend in the knees if you need to. And you can also grab hold of your strap here and wrap it around your legs. So if you've got a strap or a scarf or anything you can use, maybe you can grab hold around your feet and hold here for a breath. One more inhale.
And then on an exhale, come up. Keep your left leg straight, bring your right knee into your chest, and then bring the sole of your right foot into your left thigh, opening your right knee out to the side. Now try and square your hips forwards if you can. Take an inhale, lift your arms up, and on an exhale, fold forwards over your left leg. So again, just grab hold of wherever you can reach. Your right knee is on the floor. If you can't quite reach the floor and it's not comfortable, you can always pop a block underneath. On an inhale, lengthen your spine, look forwards, and then exhale, fold forwards. And again, you can have your strap around the foot here if you wanted to. Let's hold it for another breath. Inhale, and then exhale, come up, straighten the right leg, we'll switch sides, so bend the left knee, bring your left knee into your chest, and then place the sole of your left foot into your right thigh. Try and square your hips towards the front edge of the mat if you can. Pop a block under your left knee if it's lifting and it's not comfortable. Mine's lifting, but it seems to be okay for me. Inhale, lift your arms up, and exhale, fold forwards over the right leg. One deep breath here, and exhale. On your next inhale, see if you can lengthen your spine forwards, and exhale, fold forwards. So the toes are nice and active, your foot's flexing towards you, and you'll really feel this at the back of your leg, as well as your lower back. One more inhale, and then exhale, come back up. Straighten your left leg, and you can just sit here for a couple of breaths, or if you want to come with me, cross your legs, roll onto your hands and knees back into a plank position. Lower down into a cobra. Inhale, lift up into cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog for a breath. And then drop your knees down onto the mat, cross your legs and sit back with your legs straight. Marichachasana A. So keep your left leg straight again, bring your right knee into your chest and keep a little distance between your left thigh and your right foot. So as a first instance, just hug your right knee into your chest and see if you can straighten your back. And this might be enough for you, so just sit here working on your hip flexors. If you want to try the Marichachasana A, place your left hand down by your left hip. Inhale, lift your right arm up. And then exhale, fold forwards and stretch your right arm as far forwards as you can. And then see if you can wrap it around your right knee. So you can stay here and work on the opening in your shoulder, or if you want to go into the full version, maybe you can wrap your left arm around the back and find your fingers, maybe clasp if it clasps. Doesn't matter. If not, you can always grab hold of your shirt or wherever you can reach, just place your left hand on the lower back. This really opens up the right shoulder as well as the left shoulder actually. Wherever you are, let's take another breath. And then exhale, release. And we'll switch sides, so straighten the right leg, bring your left knee into your chest, place your left foot onto the floor, and again, just sit here hugging the left knee to start with. If you want to continue going into the bound forward fold, place the right hand onto your mat. Inhale, lift your left arm up. Exhale, stretch your left hand as far forwards as you can, and then maybe wrap it around your left knee. Option one, or if you want to go a little bit deeper, see if you can wrap your right arm around, maybe grab hold of your shirt, Maybe you can find your fingers here, maybe you can clasp. Wherever you are, let's have another breath here. And then exhale, release. Sit here for another breath, or come with me, cross your legs, come into a plank. Lower down onto the floor. Inhale, lift up into cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. One breath in down dog. And then drop your knees, cross your legs and sit back again. So left leg straight, right knee into your chest one more time. This time we're going for a twist. So you can bring your right fingertips behind you. Take an inhale, lengthen your spine and lift your left arm up. And exhale, hook your left elbow over your right knee and twist to the right. Just pay attention to what your left leg's doing. Make sure it's not just lying there doing nothing. Activate your foot. Make sure your toes are flexing towards you. If you wanted to go a little bit deeper, you can again try and wrap your left arm around your knee. Maybe grab hold of your right hand clasping, but that's quite an advanced version, and I certainly can't do it on the other side. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend to just sit here and have a few breaths. One more inhale, and then on an exhale, come back to center and we'll switch sides. So straighten your right leg, bend your left knee, bring your foot down onto the floor. Take an inhale, lengthen the spine, left fingertips back, right arm up. And then exhale, take a twist to the left, so right elbow over your left knee, taking a twist to the left. And I am a lot tighter on this side, so there's absolutely no chance in the world that I will ever wrap round, and I'm not going to push myself into it. I don't want to cause any injury, so just be mindful that your body might not be ready for the full variation of the pose. Take an inhale, and then exhale, release. One more time, straighten your legs, sit here for another breath, or come with me, cross your legs, come into a plank, lower down into a cobra, inhale, and exhale, downward facing dog. One more breath. And then drop your knees down onto the mat, cross your legs and sit back. Place your feet flat on the mat, separate your feet about hip width apart, your knees are bent, and then just grab hold of the back of your knees and lean back about 45 degrees. Engage your core muscles. And then see if you can lift maybe one leg off the floor, maybe the other, so your shins are parallel to the mat. Sit here and work on the core strength if you want to. Challenge yourself a bit more. Maybe you can let go of your hands so your arms are by your sides. Maybe you can straighten your legs, and we're just going to hold here for another breath. And exhale, release. And from here, we're just going to go into Baddha Konasana. So bring the soles of your feet together, let your knees fall out, bring your feet as close to your body as you can. And then place your hands over your toes. And as a first variation, just sit here with your back nice and straight. If you want to go a little bit further, take an inhale, and on an exhale, see if you can fold forwards. Maybe use your elbows to really open your knees out to the sides. You'll feel a good opening in the inner thighs here, as well as the hips. And again, just be mindful of how far you want to go. This is quite a good stretch for the lower back as well, so just be mindful you're not overdoing it. One more inhale. And then exhale, come up. And then spread your legs out as wide as you can. Keep your feet nice and active, toes are flexing towards you. You can have your hands behind you for support, and again try and straighten your back and have your back nice and long. If you can maintain the straightness in the spine, see if you can bring your hands in front of you and sit here for a breath. And then if you want to, you can start walking your fingertips forwards and fold forwards. But again, try, if you can, not to round your back too much, but it's instead, again, lengthen the spine forwards. So here, if you've got your blocks, you can always pop them in front of you if you want to lower your forehead onto the blocks, or you can just gradually walk your fingertips forwards and breathe into the stretch. And it really doesn't matter where you are in the posture, as long as you're feeling a nice good stretch, that's all that matters. One more breath here, and then walk your fingertips back towards your body. Bring your legs together, and we're going to lower all the way down onto the floor for our last couple of postures before Savasana. So bring your feet as close to your body as you can. Keep them about hip width apart, arms by your sides, palms facing down. We're going to lift the hips into the bridge pose. So as you're lifting your hips up, make sure your knees are not falling out to the side. Make sure they're still pointing forwards. And just lift as far as comfortable for your lower back as well as your neck. Just be mindful that you're not in any pain. Take another breath. And then exhale, release your hips back down onto the floor. Bring your knees into your chest, rock along the spine, and give your back a bit of a break. We're going to do the bridge pose one more time. So you can do the same variation as we just did, or if you want to, take an inhale, lift your hips up, and then maybe roll onto your shoulders and interlace your hands underneath your back. So we're stretching the shoulders here as well. Let's take another inhale, maybe lift a little bit higher. And then exhale, release. Bring your knees into your chest one more time. Rock along the spine. And then release your feet back down onto the floor. One last posture of this practice before we come into Savasana is a shoulder stand. So as a first instance, bring your knees to your chest and then see if you can start straightening your legs up towards the sky. And you can do this posture lying against the wall to start with. If you've never done this before and it feels very challenging, you can have the wall there for support. So this is activating your core muscles as well. So you could just stay here for another couple of breaths. Or if you wanted to try the shoulder stand, let's see if you can start lifting your hips up. Place your hands underneath your lower back and then lift your legs up towards the sky so you're standing on your shoulders. And again, this can be quite challenging for the neck, so just make sure it's not hurting anywhere. If it doesn't feel comfortable, go back to the previous variation. A shoulder stand is not for everybody. One more inhale, and then exhale. See if you can release your legs back down with control, and then lower your legs all the way down onto the floor. And from here we're going to relax in our final posture, Savasana. So straighten your legs, let your feet fall out
Arms by your sides, maybe palms facing forward, just lie comfortably. If you need to bend your knees, you can do. Close your eyes and return to the natural rhythm of your breath. And then just work your way up from your toes to the crown of your head. Make sure you're not tensing any part of your body. If you find that you're tensing a muscle somewhere, see if you can take a deep breath. And on an exhale, release the tension. And I'm going to leave you in this Savasana pose for a few more minutes if you've got the time. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know in comments what you thought of this practice, and please check